Bee farmers in the United States and here in Texas are reporting devastating colony losses. A survey from Project APIS found in Texas alone, beekeepers lost over 60% of their livestock on average. Here to help us learn more about this issue and the impacts it could have right here at home, we have Juliana Rengel, a professor of apiculture at Texas A&M. Thank you so much for joining us. It's easy for me to say agriculture, but this is the study of bees and beekeeping. So before we get into the losses that were reported and why those are so concerning, can you tell us what bees do as livestock and the impact that they have on produce?
Right. So we know that bees produce honey, and that's the sweetener that everyone enjoys. And that's the #1 product that most people are familiar with. But actually, the most important pollination ecosystem service that they provide is pollination of several agroecosystems. So it's estimated that about 1 in every 3 bites that we consume of food is pollinated by honeybees.
Wow. Okay, so we know that there has been this die-off of bees, but this isn't the first time we've seen kind of a large loss of bees. There's one that happened in the early 2000s. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, right. That happened around 2006, 2007, where a lot of commercial beekeepers, a lot of them in the Northeast, reported heavy losses of their whole operations, and that was called colony collapse disorder. So it had very specific symptoms whereby most of the workers in the colony, the bees in the colony, just suddenly disappeared. There weren't any bees at the bottom of the box to suspect any pesticide kills. There were still food reserves around, so the bees didn't really necessarily starve to death. And yet the colonies were completely gone. And so that happened almost 20 years to the date. And it's actually still unknown what caused this compendium of symptoms, because it wasn't just the one disease, it was just a phenomenon.
So in that 20 years, should the numbers have recovered by now?
So we have since then, because we put so much effort in research and trying to ascertain what happened, the number of colonies in the U.S. started to creep up a little bit, maybe by 1 or 2% per year, to about 2.7 to 2.8 million managed colonies estimated in the last, about 2 years ago.
So we know that this 60%, that number, that's alarming because typically you're going to have, bees have a life cycle, right? Mm-hmm. But this 60%, why is that such an alarming number?
Well, beekeepers would deem admissible to have about, or acceptable to have maybe 15 to 18% losses over the winter. But we have been seeing since CCD about a loss of 30 to 40%. And so basically what they do after the winter losses is to recover from those devastating losses of 30 to 40%. And they basically try to make up for those numbers toward the end of the fall. What happened this past year is that the number went from 40%, which is already high, to more than 60% in some scenarios, and even some beekeepers lost 100% of their colonies. So there's just no way for them to recover, even if they were lucky enough to have perfect conditions the rest of this year.
So with this die-off, could this what impact does this have on specifically our food? You mentioned 1 in 3 bites that we take has been impacted by a bee. So if there are no bees, what happens?
Well, bees pollinate a lot of the fruits and vegetables that we consume. So if there are no bees, there's incomplete pollination, whereby you may have fruits and vegetables that are either asymmetrical or not as nutritious and big as we would like to see them at the grocery store. That's at the very best. At the very worst, we would have situations where no production would happen. And this could happen in places like in the Central Valley of California, where almond is being produced right now as we speak, mid-February to mid-March, and it requires more than half of the colonies that we have in the US for pollination of almond. Without honeybees, we don't have any almond production. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the prices of the almond nut. When this all settles and we have the production later on in the year, because we didn't have enough bees to pollinate almond. And so I suspect that's going to happen with a lot of other agricultural crops from here to the end of the year.
I got about 30 seconds here. Is there something that everyday people can do to help bees along? Is there anything bee friendly that we can plant in our yards? Like, how can we help be a part of this ecosystem?
Right, there's a lot of companies that sell bee-friendly seeds, and so bees like a lot of diversity. So even if in a small area where you can plant a lot of diverse forage, that would be excellent for bees, not just honeybees, but native pollinators as well.
Very good. Juliana Rangel with the Texas A&M Apiculture. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Your insight
Thank you.
today. All right, for the